31 Days of Horror 2015. 31 Days of Halloween 2015. And we are at day 28. So yeah, almost done. Wow, this thing is coming to a halt shortly. So here we are, and we're going to the year 2012, and we're doing a film which is actually a remake, but I will give them credit because they actually try to do something different instead of just doing like a straight up, shot for shot, redo of the original work. And it's a film called Maniac from, like I said, 2012, starring Frodo himself, Elijah Wood, as the titular Maniac. And obviously, in case you're not really a horror film buff, it's a remake of the William Lustig film from 1980 called Maniac. And of course, we all know who William Lustig is. He's the guy that did Maniac Cop. We reviewed Maniac Cop 2 earlier. Long story short, Maniac is a really, really great exploitation B film from the heyday of degenerate cinema, starring Joe Spinelli as the really greasy, like Richard Ramirez, Son of Sam inspired psychomaniac, who runs around scalping people. I mean, it's a great, like cheesy, like guilty pleasure B horror exploitation film. And this one, it does a very good job of kind of staying in that style, but certainly, it looks way, way better as far as cinematography. Everything's glossy, it's high definition. And they actually kind of change things around. Obviously, Elijah Wood is no Joe Spinelli. I mean, he looks more like a normal dude than, his greasy-haired, pimply, Ron Jeremy-looking self from the 1980 movie. And, of course, it is set in the modern era, so you got all these trappings. Instead of, just picking up hookers, he's actually going on, like, ChristianMingle.com or whatever, I don't know, Tinder, Grindr, I don't know what these kids are into nowadays. And he's like finding like DeviantArt girls, and he's hooking up with them and taking them back to their place, and then killing them because he does that. Imagine that, Maniac, a film about a dude who kills people. But really, the big thing about this movie, okay, before we go into that, it does follow the general plot line of the original. He likes to scout women. He has to put like hair on mannequins. He does some freaky stuff, and the film pretty much follows the general plot of the 1980 movie quite well, like including the subplot about him finding the photographer and kind of having a romantic subplot but not really developing. And I have to sneeze, so hold on. Okay, I'm fighting it. Okay, we'll move along. It does kind of adhere to the general formula for the first movie. But what this film does, and this is absolutely my favorite thing about the entire feature, is this entire movie is shown through the perspective of the killer. It's a first-person slasher movie, which I don't think I've ever actually seen before, and it's brilliant. I mean, it works so incredibly well. I mean, it seems like it would be a gimmick, but it's actually really effective. And it's one of those things where, like, it's so well implemented, you don't even notice it at first. And the only time you actually ever see Elijah Wood is when he's, like, looking at the mirror and doing all this other stuff. So the entire film kind of does that, and I've never really seen that done before, and I want to give the director a lot of credit because it's a really, really great aesthetic touch. So all that to say, even though there are some good things here, and once again the gore effects are great, people getting stabbed, in the chin, and people being getting scalped, and all sorts of crazy stuff going on. Overall, I still think it's kind of a watered down version. I mean, it's good for what it is. I mean, it's slightly above average for contemporary genre films, but I still just don't think it had that. It plays itself way too seriously. It doesn't have that campiness. Joe Spinelli, I mean, he brought some weird pathos to that role. I mean, even though he was an absolute maniac, you still kind of felt sorry for him. I mean, you just kind of said, oh, you're just like a pitiful dude, you're just pathetic. I mean, you felt somewhat bad for it, in the first film. But in this one, you're just like, Elijah Wood's crazy. I mean, he's just really, like, timid, and you just want to see him, die. Just in general. So, I mean, it doesn't really kind of have sort of the same acting effect as the original film, which is weird to say about Maniac of all things. And special effects, I don't know, I just like sort of the pacing from the original better. You know, you had those really great, you know, chase scenes, and obviously Maniac, you had those all-time classic, you know, kills, right down to Tom Savini getting shot in the face at point-blank range. And nothing really comes close to that in this film. I mean, it does an admirable job, but it all just seems very rudimentary compared to the original. So I will go on record saying this is certainly a much, much better remake than a lot of the other horror remakes from this time frame. Way better than, you know, that god-awful Evil Dead remake, and way better than the really terrible Elm Street and Friday the 13th redos. But still, you know, I got to go with the original. This one is just sort of interesting as a, I don't know, I guess sort of a novelty. I mean, it really didn't need to be called Maniac. It could have been called anything else, and it would have been just the same. But for what it is, it's decent. You know, I'll give it 2.5 pieces of candy corn out of 4. So like I said, slightly above average, but still, as far as the genre goes, especially contemporary offerings, you can probably do better. But still, you should probably check it out just for the aesthetics and the first-person perspective, which I think eventually we're going to see implemented in a much better film at some point. So there you go. Give it a look, maybe.